everyone. Today we will see how to create a basic sales dashboard in Power BI. So there are two data tables that we will need. One is the sales data table and other one is a date table. We will see how to use those data tables and create a dashboard what you are seeing on the screen. What we have is there are different visualizations that we see on the screen. The first one is the table where we see the fiscal year. Against each fiscal year, what are the sales that has happened, and the second visualization what we see is a matrix which has got category like electronics, groceries, home appliances, books and clothing. Against these categories, how the sales has performed on the various financial years. We call this as a matrix because we have both a column total as well as a row total. The next visualization what we have is a bar graph, which basically indicates against the categories how the sales is performing. If you look at this visualization, we can quickly understand groceries is the one which is topping the sales, followed by clothing, electronics, books, and then the home appliances. The next visualization what we have is a map. Basically this shows the areas where the sales is happening, and the size of the bubble basically indicates the amount of sales that has happened. And then we have a card visual for the total sales, and then we have slices basically for the financial year from 2020 to 2023. We can filter the sales based on the slices. The last visualization what we have is a line graph for the sales starting from January 2020 to the December 2022. By looking at the graph, we can see how the total sales is moving over the period of time. So this entire sales dashboard will give you on one quick look, for example, how the sales is performing over the period of time. In this case, the sales is not growing, and it is flat almost, and some of the times you are having a dip in the sales. And in the sales, what is contributing more for the sales, that we can see. And then the total sales, we can have a quick look, and then the areas where the sales is happening we can see from the map. So this is an advantage of a Power BI dashboard, where by looking at one glance we can get the complete set of information. Let us start creating the sales dashboard. First we need to get the data to the Power BI. For that, in the queries, click on the transform data. Now we need to first get the sales data table to the Power Query editor. So I have the data in the CSV format. So click on the new source, click on more, select text/CSV option, click on connect. Now dynamic sales data board dash dataset is where we have the data. So click open, click OK. So now we have brought the sales data to the Power Query editor. So data, category, region, sales and quantity are the columns that we have. As a best practice, I always rename it to a shorter format so that it is always easy to reference whenever we are writing a DAX query. We will rename it to sales. The next step is to create a date table. So for that, click on new source and then click on the blank query. Click on the advanced editor. The DAX code that is required to create the date query I have given in the description. Just copy and paste that in the query. So this is the code that I have. I will copy and then I will paste in the query advanced editor. Click done. Click on function. Now we need to enter the start date and the end date. So for the start date, I will take it from 2020 January. The end date can be anything, but I will select it as 2025 December. 31st of 2025 is my end date. And the financial year start month number, I will take it, if I enter 1, it starts from January. And then the weekday start number, if I enter 1, it will take from Monday. So click OK. Now the date table is created. There are many columns in the date table. We'll understand them in detail later, and these are required to perform the time intelligence functions. So this query I will rename it to dates. Now click on close and apply. Now both the queries have been applied and are now inside the Power BI. In the data pane, you can see the dates and the sales table. Now the next step is to create the relationship between the date and the sales table. So let us go to the model view. We'll see both the tables, the date and then the sales table. The sales table is called as a fact table because this is where as and when the transaction happens, the data will get appended and the table will grow. And the date table is the table which is a master table from where we will reference the sales table. So I'll create a relationship between the date table and then the sales table. So the primary key in this case will be the date in the dates table, and then we'll create a relationship between the date and the sales date. So the relationship is one to many. Click save. Now the relationship is created, and if you hover over here you will can see between the two columns where the relationship is created. Let us move to the report view. In the report view, now we have these two tables. As a best practice, whenever you create a measure, I always create it in a separate table. So let us click enter data and then let us create measure as a table. So click on load. So whatever new measure that we are going to create will be on this table. So first let us create a new measure. Let us click on this measure table and then click on the new measure. The new measure that I am going to create is to calculate the total sales. So what I will say is total sales. This is nothing but the sum of sales in the sales table. So this is going to sum the sales column in the sales table and then return and store the value in the total sales. So click OK. Now once this measure is created, the other thing that we should do is let us go and delete the column 1. Once this is done, you will see the measure has moved to the top, that it has moved above the date and the sales table. All the new measures that I am going to create will always, I will prefer to keep it inside the measures table so that it is always easy to go back, look and reference them whenever it is required. So let us bring the total sales to the build visuals pane. We are now having that in the form of a graph. I would rather prefer to see this as a card. Click on the total sales, click on the card. Now we have that as a sales. Now the total sales is 1 million. It will be better if we could see the exact value rather than looking at it as 1 million. So let us click here. Let us select the callout value. In the callout value, the display units, to make it as none. Now you will see the total value, which is 10,75,612. The other thing that what I would like to do is I would like to make this category label, increase the category label size and then make it bold and change the font to blue so that it stands out, and then we can easily see what this card references. And the other thing that what you can do is you can select total sales and then convert this into a currency. Why I am keeping it in the US dollars is as we create the others, you will understand these sales is actually happening in the US region. So now that you have created, all that you can do is the effects. You can create a background, or if you want to create a border, create a border. So you will have a nice border around the data card. Let us move it and then let us keep it here. The next thing what we want to create is we want to create a table. So let us click on the table. So in this table we want to look at the financial year and the corresponding sales in the financial year. So you can always use those guidelines to align your table. So first thing what I would like to bring is go to the dates table and then bring the fiscal year. Now we have the fiscal year starting from 2020 to 2025. If you can recollect, on the dates table we have created from 2020 January to 2025 December. That is why we are getting the fiscal year like this. Now we will bring the total sales. Now if you can see the date in the actual sales date table, we have the data from 2020 to 2022. That is why we are getting it like this. Now we have created a table. Now let us put a border around the table. So go to general and then on the effects, on the visual border, click on OK. Now we will have a table, you have a border around the table. This is a personal choice. If you want to create a border, you can create, otherwise you can leave it. The next thing is we need to create a matrix. So click on the matrix visual. Here we are going to create the visual using category and the financial year. So the first thing to do is select the category and drop it on the rows. So we have a categories, different categories. Now the next thing is to bring the fiscal year. The fiscal year, select the fiscal year and bring it to the columns. So you have the fiscal year. Now all that we want to bring is, we want to bring the total sales to the values. So in this matrix, what we have is, we have the category and then the fiscal year and then the total sales. We have a row total as well as the column total. Now we can sort this using the arrow here. Now if you, in this we can understand the sales is more in the groceries, followed by clothing, electronics, books and home appliances. The total sales is 10,75,612. Again, I will look, if you want to create a border, go to general and then effects and you create a visual border. The next thing what we want to do is, we want to create a bar graph. So that is, go and select the stacked bar chart. Here the graph what you would like to have is between the categories and the total sale. So from the sales table, select the category. So the category will go on the y-axis and the total sales on the x-axis. There are few things that I will do in this graph, which is, since this is a category which we already know, there is no need to have a label. So go to the y-axis and then title, if you can turn it off. Similarly, the x-axis title also we can turn it off. X-axis, you can turn off the title. And we would like to, if you would like to see the value, so the other thing is we can turn the values on, data label on, so that you have a data. Now the title of the graph also I would like to change. So we can, it is better to keep it as total sales. So go to the general, click on the title and then delete the by category, and the total sales would like to increase the font size. Click on the graph, go here on the total, on the title, increase the font size to 16, make it bold and change the color to blue. Now we can create a nice border around this graph. Go to general, click on the effects and then create a visual border. You can rearrange them and then match them to the, align them to the same height. Next thing what we want to do is, we would like to create a map. So let us click on the map icon. So we want to create this map. So to understand based on the regions how the sales is happening. So if you go to the sales table, we have a region, pick the region and then add it to the location. Now if you look at this graph, we know that this, the regions whatever we are selected are in North America and on the South America. Now we would like to bring in the total sales, and the total sales should be brought to the bubble size. So bring the total sales and drop it on the bubble size. Now the bubble size indicates the size of the sale that is happening in the region. So in this case, if you look at, since almost all the sales including from the groceries to the home appliances, the groceries is 0.23 million and the home appliance is 0.20 million. There the difference is very low. That is why we are seeing all the bubbles are almost of the same size. If you want to create a border, again this is purely a personal choice. Go to general and on the effects you can create a visual border. So we have a visual border. I again repeat, it is a personal choice. If you don't want to have a border, you can create just only the visual. The next thing what we would do here is, we will create a line chart. So click on the line chart. But the other best practice is before creating a line chart, see the data in the form of a table and then create a line chart. So what we will do is first we will click on the table icon. Here what we would like to see here is for every month and year how the sales has moved starting 2020 to 2022. So go to the dates table, select month and year. So we are having a month and a year starting from April 2020 to the end of the period is December 2025. Now if you look at after April 2020 we are having April 2021, but actually how we would like to see is after April we should have May, June, July, etc. So we need to sort this somehow. So how do we sort? So click on month and year, go to sort by column, and here you look for the appropriate field for sorting. In this case we should sort by month and year. So let us select month and year. The month and years are sorted. We have January, February, March, April, etc. Now let us bring the total sales. So against the month and the year, now we are having the total sales. Now once you are clear with this table, now click on the line chart. It will get automatically converted to a line chart. Now we have got a nice line chart to look at. There are few other best practices that I use whenever I create a line chart. The first thing is, again, we don't need the y-axis label because we already know from the chart heading that is total sales. So now go to the visual, click on the y-axis, switch off the title. Similarly, the same is the case with the x-axis. Switch off the title. Now even the header, I would prefer to have it as total sales. Delete the rest of the items, keep only the total sales, and increase the font size of the title to 16, make it bold, change it to a different color so that it looks nice. Now we have this, again you can create a border. If you want to create a border, you can create a border for this. Go to general, go to effects, click on the visual border. Now we have the border for this. It is again a personal choice. Sometimes the dashboard looks much neater and cleaner if you don't have the border. I will show you that also. I will remove all the borders and I will show you how it looks without the border. Now we have created a table, a matrix, a bar chart, a map, a data card, and then a line chart. In the line chart, the best practice that I use is the y-axis will always start from 0 and we'll keep it at a maximum. So go to the visualization. First select the visual, go to the visualization on the y-axis, click on the y-axis. The minimum you make it as 0 and the maximum, in this case let us say it is 50,000, and the maximum sales that is happening is around 38,000 and the minimum is somewhere around the range of 17,000. So we have created the visual. The next thing what we need to create is we need to create a slicer. Let us select the slicer. Now here on the slicer, what we would like to do is we would like to bring in the fiscal year. So click on the dates, select the fiscal year. The fiscal year in this case starts from FY 2020 to 2025, but we all know the data is available only for the periods 2020 to 2022. So go to the filters. We can add filters to a page. So on the filters on this page, drop the fiscal year and then select only whatever is applicable. In this case I will select 2020, 2021 and 2022. Rest of them I don't select. In future if we get the data for those periods, we can select them as well, and then move this to the end of the table, end of the visual. I have selected 2021, so that is why we are seeing the data whatever is relevant for the period 2021. If we deselect, select all the data, you will have the whole data. Now let us create a heading. Now the other thing is, if you don't like this border, you can always go back and then go to general, go to effects, and then visual border you can switch it off. I have turned off all the visual borders. Now let us create a heading for this dashboard. Go to insert. On the home, select the text box, enter the text here. It is sales dashboard. Now select the text and then increase the font size to say 42. Make it bold. Now we have created a nice looking sales dashboard as we have seen in the beginning. There are more time intelligence and then calculations that we can perform in the Power BI. We can do measure branching. All these we'll see more in our next video. If you find this video useful, please consider subscribing to this channel and give a thumbs up because it motivates me to create more and more videos. Thank you.